Nothing.
Okay, sir, we've hit 50 minutes. I don't know how much time you have. I'd love to just talk about TV stuff if we can for a
Sure.
few minutes, just as an
I'm
extra
happy
add-on,
to.
because um you have some really interesting
Yeah.
TV credits, from Ellen to Phenomenon to America's Got Talent. And I'm curious, from your perspective, what that's all like. So let's just start off with Phenomenon,
Yeah.
which, spoiler alert, you won it. How'd you get involved with that, and what really stands out for you from that show?
So up until that point, the only TV I had done was local news, right? And I in Pittsburgh, I would go on with these great guys in the morning, and I was a guest once a month, and that was really the most I had done. But it did teach me that a very small deck of cards can play really, really big on TV, and it was very valuable for me. So at the time, VH1, I was trying to sell, I had a TV show that we had sold like 3 or 4 times. And every time we would sell this TV show, the executives would switch over at the network. And if you don't know, when you get the money, and it's really not about the money, because it doesn't pay a ton when this is your first type of deal. But when the executive turns over, they just kill, even if it was good, they kill anything the old executive had, because they don't want to give them credit, right? So they're the executive now. So that had happened a lot. And finally, VH1 through all of that had came to me. And at the time they were doing a show called Celebra Cadabra. And the basis of the show was almost like Dancing with the Stars with Hollywood celebrities, right? And only you'd be teaching them magic. And they had some really cool magicians signed on. They wanted me to sign on because I had pitched them this show. It didn't work out, but they wanted me to be a part of this. So I go, look, whatever you want, I'm happy to do this. And it's a competition show. Let's go. So we had signed a deal for, I think it was like 12 episodes of this. And I was on cloud 9. And cut to now, I'm on top of the world. This has worked. And literally that same week, I was in the girl I was dating at the time. I was in her backyard, walking her dog, and my phone rings, and it is NBC. And I go, yeah, hi. And they're like, may we speak with Mr. Super? And I go, yeah, no, this is him. And they say, Mike, listen, we have this show coming out called Phenomenon. It's a competition show where we're going to vote people off. And if I'm being 100% honest, that made me really afraid, because no one wants to go on national TV and get voted off. Nowadays, that is so standard. I don't think I would have felt the same way, but it really scared me, because it was kind of the beginning of the genre of show. And so I said, listen, thank you so much. I'm flattered, but no, I'm going to go ahead and pass on this. And I hang up, and I felt fine, because I did not want to be the first one voted off of this, first ever magic show on network TV. Cut 10 minutes later, my manager from LA calls me irate, and she never gets upset. And she's like, hey, did you just turn down an NBC show without discussing it with me? And I said, oh, I did, but I go, listen to what it was going to be. And she's like, no. She's like, no. She's like, I've already booked your flights. You're going to audition for them. And she's like, I go, we already have this other TV deal. She's like, she said, I've already talked to those producers. They'll let you out of it. And I go, but this is 12 episodes. She taught me the golden rule, which is, cable TV, you're lucky if 1 million people see that show. Now, as you replay it, that would be, much higher. But at the time, the replay thing hadn't really started. She goes, but on an NBC network show, on a bad night, you'll have 8 to 10 million. She's like, so you're doing this show. And I don't want to do the show, but I'll go meet with them. And I met with them, and I went in and was doing magic. And what I didn't like about the show, these were the executive producers. And when you're inexperienced, you don't realize who you're talking to, right? So I was very candid with them, because I didn't know these were like multi-million-dollar executives. And they go, Mike, I go, this is all well and good. I go, but there's some flaws with your show. And they go, well, what are the, and I mean, they were so humble. They're like, well, tell us, what is it that you think is wrong? I was one of the first ones to audition for the show. And I told them, I go, the problem is I know TV and it's a visual medium. Mentalism, which is what the show is supposed to revolve around, mentalism is anything but visual. It's more cerebral. I go, so I know the situation you're going to put everybody in, which is you're going to have people with wanting to do the best mentalists are using minimal props, right? That's sort of a thing with mentalism. I go, for me to be on it, I would want to be able to do what I call mental magic. And they're like, ooh, what is that? Right? And I go, that would involve props. And so they're like, well, pitch us what some of the things you would do. And I did. So if you go to MikeSuper.com, right, and click on the videos, you can watch all the things I did. And the thing you'll notice is, for instance, the first one was my clue prediction, where I had added this UV ink thing where the predictions made on the audience's bodies before they come in, and they're not even aware of it. And they loved this idea, right? Because it's visual. Everyone holding up their hand had the time of the crime, 3:13, on their hands. And they love this idea, and they go, yes, yes, yes. And I go, great. So I go, we'll see. I was excited about it. I flew home. Long story short, I was doing the Disney cruise and I was out to sea, and my phone rings. I'm paying $7 a minute, and it's NBC to tell me, hey, they would like to ask me to be part of the top 10 with the stipulation I would have to pretend what I was doing was real. And for some people that would work great. But I just know for me and my personality, it wouldn't work great. And I go, no, I don't really want to do that, because I knew Chris Angel had signed on. And Chris took the Houdini stance of, I'm going to expose anyone that says they're real. And I just didn't want that. I just go, that can't be good. So they go, okay, well, if you're not willing to do that, we're going to make you an alternate. The number 11, which is what the cast called me all the time, by the way. They always go, shut up, 11. You're not even on the cast. So, and I said, no, thank you. I was a little insulted that I was going to be an alternate. And I said, goodbye. 10 minutes later, my phone rings. It's my manager going, did you just turn down being an alternate? And I go, yes, because if I'm not good enough to be on the show, why would I be an alternate? And she goes, listen, most times alternates get on, and here's your choices. You can be an alternate and get a paycheck, every week from the show. Or you cannot be an alternate and get no paycheck. Either way, you don't have to do anything but cash a paycheck. And I go, well, when you put it that way, fine. So I signed on. Long story short, no one really knows this. Both my parents, passed on what would have been my mother's birthday. I was in Disney World with my family, and I got the call that they were going to put me on the show on my mother's birthday. And the night I found out I won the show was like a month and a half later, which was my dad's birthday. It was a really strange occurrence for me. And
maybe you are real.
I am real, right? Yeah. And it ended up where I won $250,000, and the IRS made it all disappear.
Talk about real magic.
Yes, yes.
We've all seen now these kinds of shows. America's Got Talent.
Yes.
What's the process, Mike? Are you guys as entertainers sequestered? Do they bang out all of the episodes over how does it work? What are you doing?
Yeah. So when you're doing the competition show, which would have been phenomenon, there was 10 of us, and you were getting eliminated people were getting eliminated every week. They would indeed sequester us. They kept us in, we called it the jail cell. It was really pipe and drape, but you weren't allowed to talk to the judges. You weren't allowed, and everybody is backstage, craft services, and Uri Geller and his wife are standing there. I spilled coffee on Uri's wife, and I didn't even know it was his wife. And so, yes, they're very secure. Same with America's Got Talent. The contestants can be together, but they try to keep you separate, from that. As far as what I noticed, and again, this is just my observation, so I wouldn't say it's official, but they try to wear us down and make us tired a lot. There was a lot of, hey, you're going for America's Got Talent, which was great, but it is for what they call boot camp week. you'd rehearse all day. Now I've done this routine for 30 years. Like there's really no need for me to rehearse it, but yet you're forced to do it. And then they'll go, okay. So we're going to take all the magicians, you're going to be performing tomorrow at 3:30, and you'd be waiting all day to perform. And then they would come back, you'd be ready, your props are ready. And they would go, okay, hold on. We're changing it all. Magicians, you're going to perform next Tuesday, but you have to keep rehearsing. So by the time you get in front of the judges, mentally, you have really been through a lot, which, makes for really good possible TV. Because if you're terrible, that's still very, very good TV. And if the judges are amazed, that is very good TV. But for like America's Got Talent, the story was the most important thing. Your story is what they want to, really sizzle, because and I had, happened to have my imaginary friend Desmond, which was something they had never done, and they loved, that story. And about halfway through, I wanted out of that story, because as you keep telling the same story, even if you're a veteran that threw yourself on a grenade, right? And I mean, it's tearful the first 2 times you hear it. By the 7th time you hear that same story, they start getting mad at you, or they go, yeah, we know what, you know what I mean? So I wanted the story to change, and they didn't want it to change. And so I did my best. And I ultimately got what I wanted, which was I got out of the Desmond story, and I was sort of the Cinderella story where I couldn't use Desmond anymore, and will his magic work? So they're very story centric. On Penn and Teller, you can make 2 choices, I think. One is you can really try to fool Penn and Teller. For me, as I was working on this, I did my lottery trick. So for me, as I was working on that, I said, for me to do, I believe I had a way. And I showed it to Johnny Thompson and Michael Close, and they go, it probably would fool them, but there's the way their stage was set up, I wasn't able to do it. So I made the decision, okay, I'm just going to go I'm going in knowing I'm not going to fool Penn and Teller, because the real prize is getting that footage of you being entertaining and, their positive comments. And they're just both such class acts. Like there's a million times they could say really bad things and don't, because they're gentlemen. And I got great footage, from it. But so for me, if I tried to fool them, it wouldn't have, the routine would have suffered. So, you make that conscious decision. For Ellen, they called me because Ellen has a bad back, and they wanted someone to make her appear. And I go, okay. And they go, so we need you to ship your illusion today, and you have to be here in 2 days, and we're going to film. They film the show Fridays and Saturdays, they film Thursday, they filmed the Friday show and the Monday show, and I was on the Monday show. And they promised me I would have all this time with Ellen to kind of go over everything. None of that happened. I had to build the prop myself with no help. And I was in where Ellen, if you ever watch the show, the doors, open up as she comes out and everybody goes nuts. So they'd already filmed the first show. I'm back behind these doors. The crowd is already warmed up, and the music just goes forever. There's 20 minutes where they're like clapping, and then Ellen comes out with Portia de Rossi and goes, so what are we doing? And I had to teach her in 3 minutes to do this trick. And she was very savvy, was great at it. And literally after 3 minutes, they go, okay, let's go. And the doors open up, and my shadow box is there, and I'm standing there. But my hair is kind of spiky, and I was shadowed, and they thought I was Ellen. So I got to feel what it felt like to be Ellen. And I go, I have to do this trick. And I don't know if Ellen's going to mess this up or not, because she's only done it once. And sure enough, in the middle of it, I had to do something for her. And then I made her appear, and then they're like, thank you so much. We'll see you, bye. So depending on when it's a live show, it's a runaway freight train, and you have no choice but to go when they tell you. When it's Penn and Teller, kind of the same thing, but this is why Allison and Penn and Teller are always in the same outfits, because while they'll record everybody, I think it's like 3 weeks long, they in post then take, okay, well, we'll take this one. And that's why Allison is always in the same. People on Twitter love to go, why don't you change your outfit? It's because they're choosing and picking how to put some foolers and some not and make the best episode. So in the end, it's a lot like the corporate environment, in that you're only there to deliver. All they care about is good TV. That's what they want. So you try to give it to them.
Can we talk just a little bit about the experience with the judges? Because I mean, there's some high-powered judges both on Phenomena. You got Chris Angel, you got Uri Geller,
Yes.
are the two that just jumped to mind. But you also dealt with Howard Stern, and I mean, there's some high-powered people that you're dealing with. Give us your impressions or best stories about some of that.
Chris, at the time, there was 4 people performing, and I remember Chris called out like 3 of the acts and was naming the trick, that kind of people could Google, right? And I was like, oh, and I remember sitting there watching this happen going, you have really gotten yourself into something here. Like, this is, I was very, very terrified at that point, going, this is not going to be good. And so the decision I made was, well, maybe if I'm using a method that Chris has also used, he wouldn't be so quick to call that out, on television. And that ended up working for me. He was very kind to me, and he never said anything bad about anything I did. He never called out methods. And so after the first trick, I was like, okay, it went well. Chris is judging. He was very nice. Uri was very, very nice. And I got to relax on the show. But there were times where if anyone is looking to do TV, I will tell you, this is the one thing I tell people that took me a long time to get my head around, is the most important thing is not what you say yes to, it's what you say no to. Because if you are not going to drive your image and what you want to portray, there are 100 producers that are happy to do that for you, and they mean well, but only you know you. So I said no on almost every TV show I have ever been on, where it was sometimes uncomfortable. Now, I wasn't a diva about it. I would just have to sell them on why I'm saying no and why I can't do it. For instance, fun story on Phenomenon was the first one, right? I was so nervous. I thought Chris was going to call this out, and he ultimately did not, which I was very grateful for, and liked the routine. But they dressed me. I typically am not a big, I wear jeans and like a button-down shirt usually, unless it's a corporate show where I need to wear a suit or tuxedo. But they had me in some cardigan sweater and these corduroy pants I would never wear. And I fought all week in a nice way. Listen, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to wear this. And they're like, well, we'll talk about it. But we never talk about it. It just kept going till it was show day. And I'm in this outfit, and my sister, who was working with me, goes, you look ridiculous. And I go, I know, and I don't even feel good in this. And she's like, well, what are you going to do? So I gave her my car keys, and I go get at the time it was like True Religion jeans and some shirt I had that had no logos or brands on it. And so she went and got it. And as you all know, union guys put your microphone on, and you're not allowed to touch that. That's a union thing. So I remember they called me to the stage. We were at commercial, and the benefit was I had the live show. So I literally, in front of everybody backstage, just took off my pants, took everything off, took off the microphone. I put on my outfit that I wanted to wear, and put on them. And everybody was so busy with, they had 30 seconds. By the time I got on my mark on stage, and the executive producers came out and go, why are you out of wardrobe? And I go, listen, no disrespect with this. But if I got voted off in that outfit, I would blame it on the outfit, and it would mess with me mentally, and I can't perform like I want to perform. But if I get voted off like this, I know I'm me and I'm doing what I'm doing. and they're like 10 seconds till air. And so they were all like looking at me as they like backed away off the camera shot. And luckily it worked out great. You know, you have to be true to yourself, I think, first. So you're not 80 years old in a rocking chair going, if I hadn't listened, you know. So the judges, though, on America's Got Talent, I was always starstruck because been a fan of Howard Stern forever. And you don't realize how tall Howard Stern is. And I'm not even including the hair, which adds another 3 inches. He was like 6'5" or something. And Howie Mandel, like, you know, an icon. And at the time, Heidi Klum. So you have the supermodel that is taller than you in heels. And I'm 6'2". Like, it was very surreal, but they were very nice, but they were also very uninvolved with you. So until you were on stage. And I mean, I worked with Kim Kardashian on Phenomenon, and it's just always surreal, but they're normal people. It is no different than your audience member, you know, normally. So you get used to it, but it's always, you know, surreal when they're there, and their job is to be critical. If everybody had to be nice, it wouldn't be a fun show to watch. So, and I got bad criticism. Howard hated the Desmond story. And again, that's not necessarily bad. That played to my advantage in that I got voted off. Howard didn't like Desmond, and they brought me back on, but I wasn't allowed to use Desmond, and that played right into my story. And I made it I didn't win America's Got Talent, but you would never know that when you're doing a corporate event and they know you were a top 10 finalist, and they might not even remember my name, but they'll remember Desmond or the imaginary friend guy. And they go, oh my goodness, I remember that. And then you're a rock star to them. They never go, did you win? Did you win that? No, I did not win it. But the being on the show is the prize. So.